Bitcoin is the revelation that fixed gold. Now, Bitcoin isn't just a digital gold, it is what fixed every single problem gold has ever had and is far superior to gold in every way possible. Now, to understand why Bitcoin fixed gold, we must understand what gold is, what it's supposed to do. Gold is used to be a form of money. That is the purpose of gold, and it's what it gives gold its value. Now, what is money? I would define money as the ability to store the time and value that you have provided to the world to later be able to exchange it for goods and slash or services. So money should be able to do two things. One, it stores your time slash value, and two, it can be used to exchange later on for goods and services. So starting with being able to store time and value, Bitcoin fixes gold by being decentralized, verifiable, and having an unmanipulatable supply. One way Bitcoin beats gold in being able to store your time and value that you have provided is by being decentralized. Looking at gold today, almost all of gold is held in centralized vaults, meaning a vast majority of the gold ownership is just claims to gold. People don't actually own a whole bunch of physical gold, they just own a whole bunch of claims to gold. With owning claims to gold, you must trust that the custodian that you hold your gold with isn't renting out more gold than they actually have, and that they will be able to give you back your gold when you want it. This has historically failed even at the governmental level when the US printed more money than they had gold back when the US was on the gold standard. When this happened, countries caught on and wanted to exchange their gold-backed dollars for gold as they were rightfully promised. But when too many countries wanted their gold back and the US knew they didn't have enough gold, they said, no, sorry, that's too bad. Friendly reminder, we have nukes. And the same thing can happen with your claims to gold. Any custodian that holds your gold could possibly rent out more gold than they actually have to back it up, and they may deny your access to gold. On top of that, looking back at 1933, when the US essentially banned gold and forced citizens to sell their gold for US dollars, there is a huge issue with having centralized money because centralized money runs the risk of confiscation. Since the majority of gold ownership were just claims to owning gold, what happened when the US government said you have to sell your gold for US dollars? And people went to their custodian and they're like, hey, I want my gold back, they would not be able to get their gold. So having centralized money runs that risk of being easily confiscatable. Another reason Bitcoin is better than gold is that it is verifiable. Gold, on the other hand, can easily be counterfeited. You could take something like tungsten with a very similar density to gold, fill gold with that tungsten, and then you could counterfeit that gold. And then if I wanted to buy your gold from you, I would have to verify that it's real using a destructive, costly, and slash or time-consuming verification method because of how easily gold can be counterfeited. Now, why this makes Bitcoin a better store of value? Well, if you have undetected counterfeited gold, that's going to artificially increase the gold supply, which would devalue the gold that everyone else owns. Kind of similar to fiat currency, when they're printing more money, they're essentially counterfeiting money just legally because they get to choose who can legally counterfeit money. That's the way fiat works, which is why you should own Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin, on the other hand, cannot be counterfeited and is verified by the network in 10 minutes. And this verification method is not destructive, not costly, and not time consuming. This ensures that not only you don't receive counterfeit Bitcoin, but it also ensures that no counterfeit Bitcoin artificially increases the Bitcoin supply in circulation. There is only going to be 21 million real, authentic Bitcoin ever. Adding on to that point, Bitcoin's supply cannot be manipulated in any way, shape, or form. On top of the ability to counterfeit gold, which could artificially increase the supply of gold, there's also an unknown supply of gold, and large findings of gold could increase that supply, devaluing the gold that the gold owners have. Especially with technology advancing, it's going to make it easier to mine for gold, and it's going to increase the ability to get gold from other planets too, which could largely increase the supply of gold, devaluing the gold that you own. Additionally, kind of as I mentioned before, as gold gets counterfeited, it artificially increases gold supply. Bitcoin, on the other hand, its supply can never be manipulated because Bitcoin cannot be counterfeited and you cannot increase the supply of Bitcoin. The supply is fixed at 21 million Bitcoin, with a halving occurring every 4 years, cutting the released supply of Bitcoin over time. Bitcoin fixes gold's ability to store your time and value by one, being decentralized, meaning you have full control over your own money. On top of that, it makes it way harder for anyone to confiscate your money. Bitcoin is also verifiable, ensuring any Bitcoin that you ever get is not counterfeited. And it also ensures that no counterfeited money enters and artificially increases the supply of your money. Kind of going off of that, Bitcoin also has an unmanipulatable supply. There will only ever be 21 million gold, so you cannot, sorry, 21 million Bitcoin, so you cannot artificially increase the supply of Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form, which would devalue the money that you own. Bitcoin also fixes gold by being a better form of exchange. Now, Bitcoin is a better form of exchange because it is more transportable, divisible, and going off of that divisibility, it is also upgradable. Bitcoin is much more transportable than gold. If you were to transport large amounts of gold from one location to another, you would not be able to do so safely and securely. It would be very easy to confiscate or steal your gold if you were transporting it. On top of that, as I mentioned before, if something were to happen where like the US banned gold and forced you to sell your gold for dollars, it would be very easy to confiscate that gold if you ever attempted to transport your gold from one location to another. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is very difficult to confiscate and steal, and you can send your Bitcoin across the world in minutes. On top of that, you can travel with your Bitcoin very safely and securely, which makes it very difficult to confiscate. Bitcoin is also a better form of exchange as it is very divisible. Gold, on the other hand, is difficult to divide. What are you going to do if you want to exchange your gold for goods and services? Slice your gold to create the exact value to exchange for the goods and services that you're seeking out. It is very difficult to divide gold. On the other hand, Bitcoin, every Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million Satoshis, which is roughly a tenth of a US penny per Satoshi. So Bitcoin is even more divisible than dollars. Now, I know what you might be thinking, that as Bitcoin adoption grows and fiat currencies continuously inflate and get devalued, and the price of Bitcoin continuously gets up, Bitcoin would be getting less and less divisible over time. However, Bitcoin is upgradable and can be upgraded to become more and more divisible as the price of Bitcoin goes up. For example, we could start using micro Satoshis in the future if the price of Bitcoin continuously went up and we needed to make Bitcoin more divisible. So Bitcoin fixes gold's ability to exchange for goods and services by one being very transportable, in which you can safely and securely send and transport your Bitcoin across the world at any time. It is also very divisible, allowing you to easily exchange the value of your Bitcoin for goods and services that you desire. On top of that, if divisibility ever became a problem, Bitcoin is upgradable to become more and more divisible over time. My name is Ian Gillespie. If you like this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sending this video to Peter Schiff.